The firefighters had reached the point where training no longer mattered. The heat was unbearable. The smoke was thick, black, and alive. Every step inside the building felt like a gamble they might not walk back from. They had searched the lower floors. They had called out. They had listened. Nothing. No voices. No movement. Only the crackling sound of fire consuming what was left. The command was clear. The structure was unstable. The roof could collapse at any moment. The team was preparing to pull back, not because they wanted to, but because sometimes survival demands impossible choices. That's when the dog stopped. Not barked, not growled, stopped. In the middle of chaos, the dog froze, nose pressed low to the ground, body tense, ears alert. Smoke swirled around him, but his focus didn't break. He wasn't reacting to fear. He was reacting to something else, something the firefighters couldn't hear, something they couldn't smell, something they couldn't see. One of the firefighters turned, confused. Another took a step closer, watching the dog's posture change, rigid, deliberate, certain. Then the dog moved forward. Not fast, not reckless, purposeful. Each step took him deeper into the smoke, toward a part of the building the team had already ruled out, a place they believed was empty, a place no human could safely reach. The firefighters hesitated. Before we begin, subscribe to Four-Legged Heroes for more emotional stories inspired by real rescue missions, where courage comes on four legs and every second matters. What happened that day didn't start with flames or sirens. While the names and details have been adapted, the actions, risks, and bravery are grounded in reality. Apartments near exits, lower floors, places where people might have escaped or called for help. But the fire had taken control. Communication became difficult. Heat pushed them back. Floors weakened. The risk grew with every passing minute. That's when the K9 rescue unit was deployed, to read the environment, to detect what human senses miss under extreme conditions. And when they stop, when they change behavior, it means something important. And in the next moments, that decision would define everything that followed. The call came in just after dawn, when the city was still half asleep, and the streets carried that quiet heaviness that only early morning brings. A fire had broken out in an old residential building on the east side of town. 4 floors, narrow stairwells, decades of patchwork repairs, and no modern fireproofing. The kind of place firefighters immediately recognize as dangerous. Smoke was already pushing through broken windows, thick and dark, rolling upward like a living thing, all pointing at the building with the same desperate question in their eyes. Is anyone still inside? No one had a clear answer. He knew how quickly they could turn deadly. Inside, visibility dropped to almost nothing. The heat pressed down like a weight. Walls groaned. Somewhere above them, wood cracked sharply, a warning sound every firefighter knows to respect. They began their search the way they always did. Right side first, left side second. Call out, listen, move. Fire department. If anyone can hear us, call out. Their voices disappeared into the smoke. Minutes passed, then more minutes. The kind that stretch endlessly when every second matters. On the second floor, they found signs of escape. A door forced open. A window shattered from the inside. That was both good and bad. Their protective gear did its job, but even the best equipment has limits. Sweat poured. Breathing grew heavy. Communication faltered. He froze. Command, he said into his radio, forcing his voice to stay calm. Possible sign of occupancy on the 3rd floor. The reply came quickly. Copy. Proceed with caution. They pushed forward. The structure groaned again, louder this time. A warning that could no longer be ignored. The captain made the call no firefighter wants to make. Prepare to pull back, he ordered. The rescue dog stepped down from the truck with calm confidence, unfazed by the chaos around him. His movements were controlled, practiced. "You ready, boy?" the handler asked quietly. Inside, the environment changed instantly. The dog lowered his head, nose working rapidly, reading the air in a way no machine could replicate. Every scent told a story: smoke, chemicals, burned wood, human presence, fear. The firefighters watched closely. They moved through the first floor quickly. Nothing. Second floor. The dog slowed but didn't stop. The heat here was intense. Even from below, it radiated downward. The handler hesitated. The captain hesitated. "This is as far as we go," the captain said. "If we lose the stairwell, we lose everything." His movements became deliberate, precise. His ears angled forward. His entire posture shifted into alert. This was indication. The firefighters exchanged looks. Flames licked along the ceiling, making the air shimmer. The dog took another step, then another. The handler felt the tension tighten in the line. "He wants to go," he said quietly, not hesitating, disappearing slowly into the smoke. The barking echoed once, then again, sharp and deliberate. It wasn't panic. It wasn't random. Every firefighter on that floor recognized the sound instantly. That was an alert. The handler tightened his grip on the line, feeling the controlled pull from the other end. The dog wasn't running. He wasn't retreating. The captain didn't respond right away. His eyes moved across the hallway, reading the structure the way only experience allows. The ceiling sagged. Flames crawled along exposed beams. Smoke pulsed thick and hot, forcing everyone to stay low. This was the line no one wanted to cross. Protocol existed for a reason. When entering meant turning one rescue into multiple casualties. But rescue dogs were deployed precisely for moments like this, when human limits were reached. "Confirm indication," the captain ordered. He scratched once at the debris ahead. Clear, intentional, trained. That was confirmation. "There's someone there," the handler said. But it meant possibility. And in rescue work, possibility was everything. The captain keyed his radio. "Command K9 as a confirmed indication on the third floor. Hallway collapse beyond human access. Stand by." The reply crackled back through interference. "Copy. Assess risk." Sweat ran down their faces beneath their masks. Breathing was labored. Time was against them. And somewhere ahead, hidden behind smoke and rubble, the dog was waiting. The handler crouched low, adjusting the line. He's holding position. That mattered. Rescue dogs didn't waste energy. We don't break the line. If conditions change, we pull back immediately. No one questioned him. They began to move. Each step forward felt heavier than the last. The heat intensified, pressing against their gear. Smoke thickened, reducing visibility to inches. Flashlights bounced uselessly off, swirling black. The hallway narrowed where the collapse had occurred. And then they saw him. The dog stood partially obscured by smoke, positioned near a collapsed doorway. His body was angled toward the debris, nose low, tail still. His entire posture radiated focus. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. The handler reached him first, staying low, keeping his movements slow and deliberate. He scanned the area quickly, assessing stability. "Good boy," he whispered, more for himself than the dog. Behind the collapsed doorway, the fire burned hotter. Human entry beyond this point was impossible. But the dog wasn't asking for permission. He took a small step forward, squeezing through a narrow opening no human could fit through. The handler felt the line shift again. "Easy," he murmured. "Easy." The dog disappeared into the space. Seconds passed, then the barking changed. It wasn't the alert bark anymore. The handler's heart pounded. He relayed the change instantly. "Captain, arc pattern changed. He's active." The captain nodded, already moving. "I've got something." The image sharpened slightly. "Life signs?" the captain asked. "Hard to tell," came the reply. "Heat signature is weak." The handler clenched his jaw. The dog barked again. Closer now. Then, unmistakably, the dog began to whine softly between barks. That sound cut deeper than any alarm. Rescue dogs whined when they were near someone vulnerable, someone alive but weak, someone they could sense was still there. "He's found them," the handler said quietly. "They're alive." Hope surged through the team, fragile, dangerous, powerful. But hope didn't change reality. The structure was failing. Fire was advancing. Time was nearly gone. The captain took a breath. "We need a plan," he said, "and we need it now." They assessed quickly. The debris blocked direct access. The fire was closing in from above. The only possible option was the one no one wanted, sending the dog further in. "Can he reach them?" the captain asked. The handler hesitated. This was the line he had sworn never to cross, unless absolutely necessary. "He can," he said finally, "but getting back, that's the risk." The dog barked again, pulling slightly on the line, urging forward. The handler knelt low, locking eyes with him. "If you go," he whispered, "you come back." He turned, pushed deeper into the debris, and vanished completely from sight. The line slid through the handler's hands, inch by inch. Still, for a split second, no one spoke. In a burning building, silence like that was never a good sign. Fire roared above them, devouring the upper structure. The air vibrated with heat. Somewhere deep inside the walls, something cracked violently, sending a shower of sparks down the hallway. The handler froze, every muscle locked. "Buddy?" he called softly, careful not to shout. "Buddy, come." No movement. The line didn't shift. He could be shielding someone. Or worse, he could be trapped. The handler swallowed hard and tugged the line gently. Not enough to pull. Just enough to test. Nothing. The dog was anchored. The sag had worsened. Flames rolled violently across the beams, feeding on dry wood that had waited decades to burn. Time was gone. "Thermal?" the captain asked. The firefighter holding the camera adjusted the angle again, pushing it toward the collapsed opening. Smoke distorted the image, but after a few seconds, the outline reappeared. A surge of urgency rippled through the team. One victim was bad enough. Two meant the stakes had doubled. "Can we breach?" someone asked. The captain shook his head. Not without bringing the ceiling down. Everyone knew it. The dog was the only one who could reach them. Inside the collapsed space, the dog had found a small pocket where the fire hadn't yet consumed everything. A partial void created by fallen beams had shielded two people, a woman and a child, from the worst of the flames. Smoke filled the air, but there was just enough oxygen left to survive, barely. The child coughed weakly, clinging to her side. The dog adjusted again, placing his body so the child could lean against him. His vest grew hot. His paws burned, but he stayed. "He's signaling distress." The captain didn't hesitate. "We pull him back if conditions worsen," he said. "Dog or no dog?" Another crack thundered above them. Smoke thickened instantly, reducing visibility to zero. "Collapse imminent," someone shouted. The captain keyed his radio. "Command, we have 2 confirmed survivors located by K9. Structural failure accelerating. Request immediate alternate extraction." The response came fast, but not helpful. "No alternate access. Roof is compromised. Time window is closing." The captain closed his eyes briefly. They were out of options. Inside the void, the woman felt the heat rising. She knew she was running out of time. Her vision blurred. Her strength was gone. Too tight. The child could fit. The woman could not. The dog hesitated. He barked sharply once and pressed his body against the woman's shoulder, pushing gently but insistently. She shook her head weakly. "I can't," she whispered, though no one could hear her. The dog barked again, louder this time, frustration bleeding into urgency. He pulled at her sleeve with his teeth, not aggressive, but desperate. The child cried softly. The dog stopped pulling. He looked at the child, then back at the woman, then back toward the opening. He made a decision. The dog positioned himself sideways, using his body to widen the gap just enough. He pushed against debris with his shoulder, straining, muscles trembling. Pain flared through him as heat seared his vest. But the opening widened, just enough. The handler felt the line shift again. "He's moving," he said urgently. Slow, but moving. The firefighters leaned in, watching the line inch backward. Inside the void, the woman summoned everything she had left. She pushed the child forward first. The dog barked sharply encouraging. The child slid through the opening, coughing violently but alive. The dog followed halfway, then stopped. He turned back. The woman was still inside. She was fading fast. The dog returned to her without hesitation. Outside, the captain saw the child emerge through the debris, reaching trembling hands into the smoke. "I've got the child," a firefighter shouted, pulling him into safety. Cheers nearly erupted, but were cut short instantly. "Where's the dog?" someone yelled. The line went taut again. The handler's heart dropped. "He went back," he said. "He went back in." The ceiling groaned one final time. A deep, rolling sound that meant only one thing. Total collapse was seconds away. "Pull him," the captain shouted. "Now!" The handler grabbed the line, pulling with controlled force. "Buddy, come, now." For a terrifying second, nothing happened. Then the line jerked violently. The dog burst from the opening, dragging the woman with him. The firefighters lunged forward, grabbing both dog and victim simultaneously, hauling them clear as the hallway erupted in flame and debris. They tumbled backward down the stairs as the third floor collapsed entirely. The roar was deafening. Smoke swallowed everything. And then silence. When the dust settled, the team lay scattered near the building's entrance, coughing, gasping, alive. The woman was breathing. The child was crying. And the dog lay on his side, chest rising and falling rapidly, eyes still open. The air outside felt unreal, cool, open, silent compared to the chaos they had just escaped. Firefighters lay scattered near the entrance, coughing violently as oxygen rushed back into lungs that had been burning moments before. Deer clattered to the ground. Someone shouted for medics. Another voice called out for accountability. But all eyes were drawn to the same place. The dog. He lay on his side on the pavement, chest rising unevenly, tongue hanging slightly from his mouth. Soot covered his fur. His vest was scorched, edges blackened, straps melted in places. One boot was gone entirely. The handler dropped to his knees beside him instantly. "Buddy," he said, hands shaking as he checked the dog's breathing. "Hey, stay with me." The dog's eyes shifted slowly, unfocused at first. Then they locked onto the handler's face. A faint thump of a tail against the pavement. He was alive. A wave of relief surged through the handler, so strong it nearly knocked the breath from him. He pressed his forehead briefly against the dog's helmet, ignoring the heat still radiating from it. "You did good," he whispered. "You did so good." Paramedics rushed forward, moving with practiced urgency. One knelt beside the woman, checking her pulse and airway. Another wrapped the child in a blanket, speaking softly as he cried. his small hands gripping the fabric like it was the only solid thing left in the world. "She's breathing," a medic called out. Smoke inhalation, severe dehydration, but she's alive. The word spread quickly. Alive. The captain stood nearby, helmet off, face streaked with soot and sweat. He watched as the woman was loaded onto a stretcher, oxygen mask secured, eyes fluttering open, just long enough to see the child being carried beside her. Tears cut clean lines through the grime on his face. They hadn't been too late. The dog was gently lifted onto a special canine stretcher, his body supported carefully to avoid further injury. The handler stayed beside him every step of the way, one hand never leaving the dog's shoulder. Toward the child, he strained weakly against the stretcher, trying to lift his head. "He's worried about them," one medic said softly. The handler nodded. "He won't rest until he sees them safe." The medic hesitated, then nodded toward the open ambulance doors. They wheeled the dog closer as the woman was secured inside the ambulance. Her eyes opened again, clearer this time. She turned her head slowly and froze. Her gaze locked onto the dog. Tears welled instantly. "That's him," she whispered through the oxygen mask. "That's the dog." The handler felt his throat tighten. The child leaned forward, eyes wide. Despite the chaos, despite the pain, he smiled. "Doggy," he said weakly. The dog let out a soft, breathy sound, half whine, half sigh, and finally relaxed. His head settled back onto the stretcher. His job was done. The ambulance doors closed moments later, sirens cutting through the morning air as they pulled away. Only then did the weight of what had happened begin to settle over the scene. Firefighters stood in silence, watching smoke continue to pour from the building. The structure was a total loss. Flames still burned fiercely, but no one moved to chase them. The mission was complete. Accountability checks were called. Everyone answered. Everyone was out. The captain exhaled slowly, shoulders sagging as adrenaline faded. He turned toward the handler and the dog. "That dog saved their lives," he said quietly. "And maybe ours." The handler nodded, unable to speak. Later, at the emergency veterinary clinic, the lights were harsh and unforgiving. The dog was rushed inside, veterinarians moving quickly to assess burns, smoke inhalation, dehydration. The handler paced the hallway, helmet still in his hands, unable to sit. Minutes stretched into an hour. Finally, a veterinarian stepped out. "He's stable," she said. "Exhausted. Minor burns. Smoke inhalation. But he's going to be okay." The handler closed his eyes, relief crashing over him fully this time. "He never stopped working," she added, "even when he should have." The handler smiled faintly. "That's who he is." News of the rescue spread quickly. 2 lives saved. 1 dog at the center of it all. By afternoon, firefighters from neighboring stations stopped by the clinic. Some brought treats. Others brought quiet respect. No speeches, no cameras, just nods and understanding. The dog slept most of the day, body finally allowing itself to shut down. When he woke, the handler was there. Always. Outside, the city returned slowly to normal. Streets reopened. Smoke cleared. The burned building stood as a blackened reminder of how close everything had come to ending differently. But for one family, the story didn't end in loss. It ended in survival. And for the firefighters, it ended with a renewed understanding of something they already knew, but were reminded of in the most powerful way possible. Sometimes, when humans reach their limits, heroes with 4 legs keep going. The fire was officially declared extinguished just after noon. What remained of the building was nothing more than a blackened shell. Windows shattered, walls scarred, the roof collapsed inward like a final surrender. Yellow tape surrounded the structure now, fluttering lightly in the breeze, as if trying to warn the world of what had almost been lost inside. For most people, it was just another fire, another news headline, another tragedy narrowly avoided. But for those who had been there, the day would never fade. At the hospital, the woman regained full consciousness hours later. The first thing she asked wasn't about her injuries or the building. She asked about the dog. The nurse smiled gently. "He's okay," she said. "He's resting." When asked what he remembered, his answer was simple. "The dog came first," he said. "He didn't leave." Word of the rescue spread quickly through the fire department. Stories were told, retold, and corrected as adrenaline wore off and reality settled in. Each version carried the same truth. When the structure became too dangerous, when human limits were reached, the dog kept going. At the veterinary clinic, the dog recovered slowly. His paws were treated, his burns healed, his lungs cleared with time and care. Through it all, his handler never left his side. When the dog finally stood again, tail wagging weakly but proudly, the room seemed brighter. No medals were given that day, no official ceremonies. Firefighters didn't need them. They knew what they had witnessed. But recognition came quietly, in ways that mattered. A small plaque was placed at the station, not flashy, not dramatic, just a name, a date, and a simple line beneath it. When we couldn't go further, he did. The dog returned to duty weeks later. Same routine, same training, same calm focus. If he remembered the fire, he never showed it. Rescue dogs don't dwell on the past. They live in the moment, ready, alert, waiting for the next call. But the firefighters changed. Every drill felt different. Every alarm carried new weight. They moved with renewed respect for the bond between human and dog, a partnership built not on words, but on trust so deep it could survive smoke, heat, and collapsing walls. Months later, the handler received a letter. Inside was a photo. The woman and her child stood smiling in front of a new home. The child held a drawing. Crude lines, bright colors, unmistakable shapes. A dog, a firefighter, fire in the background. On the back, written in careful handwriting, were just a few words. "Thank you for sending him." The handler folded the letter carefully and placed it in his locker. Some stories never make the news. Some heroes never seek recognition. Some acts of courage happen in places where no cameras can reach. But they matter. Because somewhere, right now, another building stands vulnerable. Another disaster waits quietly. Another moment will come when humans reach the edge of what they can do. And when that moment arrives, a dog will step forward. Not for fame, not for reward, but because that is what he was trained to do, what he was born to do. This story was inspired by real rescue dogs who work beside firefighters every day. Dogs who run toward danger, who listen when the world is silent, who refuse to leave when lives are still at risk. They are not mascots. They are not symbols. They are heroes. Heroes with 4 legs. And as long as fires burn, walls fall, and people need saving, they will be there, waiting, ready.